we're talking SLLA 6990, Praxis 5412. I actually pulled all these questions from the instructional leadership portion of my study guide. And all of these are questions in order. So if you're following along in the study guide, you just flip through the study guide. I'm going in order here, but I'd like to break these down and show you why some answers are correct and why some are incorrect. Okay. So typically you'll get a question like this, and this is actually a shorter question, but you can see how all of the answer choices are rather long. Okay. And so the question stem itself is pretty short, and a lot of people will start right here. But I always say, go to the answer choices, eliminate bad answers. I need a darker color. Hang on, guys. That green is a little too, I want purple. We're going to go purple. There we go. You want to start with the answer choices first because you can eliminate bad answers and zero in on good answers. So let's not read that first sentence for the question. Let's go into the answer choices. Let's start here at A. Determining and addressing needs or gaps between current conditions and desired conditions or wants. Well, the word gaps is a good word here on this exam because one of our jobs as instructional leaders is to identify achievement gaps and opportunity gaps by looking at the data. So I like answer choice A. B, surveying teachers to determine areas of improvement and where to allocate resources. Okay, this sounds like a good answer choice, right? But here's the thing. Surveying teachers to allocate resources is a good supplemental data point. But if we're allocating resources, we need to make sure that we are not just looking at surveys, we're actually looking at assessment data, behavioral data, all kinds of data. Because what are teachers going to do? I would do the same thing. I would say, I need a smart board. I need resources in the gym. Maybe they're a PE teacher. I need resources to take my kids on a field trip. Everybody's got different needs and wants. And so in order to kind of mitigate that, we need to look at surveys for sure, but then cross-reference them with actual quantitative data. Okay, so that's really important. So I'm going to cross off B. C, using student achievement data. Ooh, I like it. Student achievement data to drive decisions made in the classroom. Well, here's where this can be problematic. You're not in the classroom. You're not in the classroom. You are building level. So I am still liking answer choice A. C is okay. I'm going to leave it, but A is my star here. D, analyzing resources and determining allocation based on desired student achievement. All right, it's okay, but desired student achievement, that's kind of a blanketed way of thinking about allocating resources. And we're analyzing resources here. We're not analyzing data, all right? So I still like A. Let's have a look at the question. A needs assessment is a systematic process for. Well, a needs assessment is analyzing data. So D is out. It's not analyzing resources. And you could, C is true. You are analyzing student achievement. But if we're talking about a needs assessment, we're talking not about driving decisions in the classroom, but driving decisions school-wide. And that's why A is the best answer here. Determining and addressing gaps between current conditions and desired conditions. Where are we now? Where do we want to go? Where are the gaps and where do I need to funnel resources into there? All right. I'm just going to check my screen share real quick, guys. Okay. It looks like we're good. Sorry. Didn't mean to make you dizzy there. I just want to make sure it's working. Okay. Let's have a look at number 2. Now this one has a longer narrative at the top and more answer choices. I'm going to start right here at the answer choices first. Form a committee of experienced teachers to analyze the data and come up with solutions. Okay. I like it. We have committee, but here's a problem of experienced teachers. Now, I like analyze the data and come up with solutions, but do we just form a committee of experienced teachers and leave out our new teachers and other people in the school? I'm not in love with it. I'm not going to cross it off, but I'm not in love with it. B, review the school improvement plan and analyze current goals identified in the plan. Now, I like answer choices that reference the school improvement plan, because that is the document that houses our current goals and where we want to go and the data that we've used to figure that out and all the barriers we've figured out and all of the, I mean, it's a huge document. Every school has to do it. So I like the school improvement plan. I'm going to keep B. C, delegate part of the task to the assistant principal so time can be used efficiently. All right, I had somebody ask me about this. Now, delegation is a good word on this exam, But typically we want to delegate based on people's strengths and talents. And usually on this test, delegation happens because we want to develop and build capacity in the building. For example, if you see a teacher who really wants to be a school leader and she's really good, let's say at social media or photography or something like that, you might delegate some of those tasks to her because it's going to help develop her as a school leader, take charge of certain projects, things like that. You might have that teacher conduct professional development. Delegation shouldn't just be, hey, I'm busy. Can you take this? Even though in the real world it is that I'm overwhelmed. Can you take this task from me? But on this test, we're typically not delegating to other assistant principals. We want to delegate to teachers, but in a very mindful way. So I'm going to cross off C and D. Disaggregate the data based on subgroups and analyze achievement gaps. Okay, D has all the good stuff. First of all, this word disaggregate is a brilliant word on this test. Disaggregate means we dig down into the data and look at things more closely. So for example, let's say we're looking at reading data. And when we first look at it, we can see reading scores are low. Okay. And so we're like, oh man, reading scores are down. But when we disaggregate and we look at each individual skill, we might see, well, vocabulary is up, but fluency is down, or comprehension is down, or whatever skills we're assessing in these particular assessments. So disaggregating the data is very important because you go from a macro view of looking at it like from the outside and then coming down and looking at it, pinpointing certain areas. So disaggregating the data 9 times out of 10 is in a very good answer choice. Then we have this word here, subgroups. Subgroups are your different groups of students based on socioeconomic status, race, special education status, whether they're ELLs or general ed kids or, whatever it is. Now, I caution you about subgroups because when we use subgroups, we tend to reduce people to a bar on a bar graph, and it can be problematic and even reinforce bias and other problems. However, when we're analyzing data, it does help to kind of see where those achievement gaps are. And again, achievement gaps. All right. When we talk about achievement gaps, and let me see. Let me do a little quick demo. Okay. When we talk about achievement gaps, I'm just going to do a quick bar graph here so you know what an achievement gap is. If you don't know, it's okay. Okay. Got a bar graph here. You got a bar graph here. You got a bar graph here. And each of these are different subgroups. Okay. So sub 1, sub 2, apologize for my handwriting, sub 3. Now you can see these kids here are achieving at a high level, and these kids are doing pretty good here. But these kids here are not achieving as high. So this right here, the gap from here to here is called the achievement gap. And our job as instructional leaders is to push these guys up to here and even push this up here, but keep these guys going so eventually they catch up. Now, do they always catch up? No. Does it take a year? Absolutely not. It takes way longer than a year to close achievement gaps. But that is our goal, is to make these kids and give these kids an opportunity to achieve and close those gaps so everybody is achieving. Now, it's definitely a pie in the sky idea. It's not going to happen very easily, but we should be thinking about closing achievement gaps by closing opportunity gaps as well, because sometimes these subgroups here, the ones that are achieving at lower levels, there's an opportunity gap as well. They might not have access to the technology that these kids have. They might not have, all kinds of things. We know as leaders, as teachers, there are so many factors that go into why students are not achieving at the same rate as other students. And there's been tons of studies on that. But just for this exam, make sure that you're thinking about this achievement gap. And so if I go back here, D, before I even read the question, has got all the words. Now let's have a look at the question stem. The principal of this high school is working on increasing the curriculum and instructional focus to include targeted approach to student subgroups, specifically students who are identified as low socioeconomic and special education. What would the first, they'll do this a lot, what would the first step be? Well, the first step is always looking at the data and disaggregating it, and then checking out these achievement gaps and where they can be closed. All right, that's why that is the best answer. And we got the answer without even reading the question. All right, let's take a look at number 3. Okay, this is where we're going to talk about vertical alignment, horizontal alignment, and common assessments and lesson studies. Okay, because I told you in the specs when we were analyzing those, I was going to talk about this. Well, with the answer choices, I can't do much because they're just 1 or 2 word answer choices. So let's go ahead and read the question stem. A principal has blocked time off in teachers' schedules so content area teachers in social studies and English can plan interdisciplinary units based on the state standards. By doing this, the principal is giving teachers the necessary resource of time so their lessons can be. All right, let's talk about vertical alignment. What's vertical alignment? Vertical alignment, think of a ladder. It goes up and down vertically. And so whatever we do in first grade supports what the teachers need in second grade, and second grade teachers are supporting what's going to happen in third grade. And the standards really do that. Well, they're supposed to do that. And so that is supposed to ensure that when the kids come into the teacher's room, the beginning of the year, they're ready for whatever grade level they are going into. So that's a vertical alignment. Everything builds on everything else in terms of grade level. Now, horizontal alignment. Okay, so let me do a little ladder there. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Horizontal alignment is across the school. So you might have English, and you might have social studies, and you might have PE, and then you got math, and then you got science. Okay. Now, in this case, we're talking interdisciplinary. When you are, having these teachers working together to plan interdisciplinary units so that they are supporting each other's content area, that is horizontal alignment. It is very powerful in increasing student achievement. However, teachers need to be given time to plan together. And we know that the funding and the time and everything else is getting cut more and more. So providing a space for this is very difficult. But when leaders do, the outcome is fantastic, because what the English people are doing are supporting social studies and vice versa, maybe reading strategies, writing strategies. These two content areas go really well together. And then, of course, like math and science go well together. That kind of scientific brain thinking, also writing instruction, how to write scientifically, how to write mathematically. Of course, the science and the math can work with PE to kind of integrate those content areas. So that's horizontal alignment. Now, common assessments are when you have common assessments, let's say among a department. So, or between and among departments. So let's say the English department, they have common assessments. So maybe at the end of the quarter, they're going to give the same assessment to all their kids. And then they're going to get into their PLCs, and they're going to examine that assessment data, and they're going to make decisions as a group on that. That's why common assessments are so important. Very, very powerful tool as well. Doesn't mean that every assessment you give in your classroom has to be common, but when you encourage teachers to use common assessments for big benchmark exams, it really helps to streamline that data, and it's easier to make decisions department-wide. But that's not what we're doing here. And then D, lesson study. Lesson study is a really cool practice. I don't even know if they're doing it anymore, but we used to train teachers on it, where they examine a lesson, conduct a lesson. They all collect. Number 4. Okay, let's redo number 4. Sorry about that. I'll edit the video later to make sure. All right, number 4. One more time here. We've got the answer choices here, and we have this big, long data set and a bunch of crazy information here. And people tend to get really freaked out when they see something like this. And so let's have a look at the answer choices first. Should the school investigate other reading programs that maximize reading gains for all student groups? It's okay. I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to circle it yet. B, how can the achievement gap in reading performance between total group and the subgroup be closed? Again, B has all the good words in it. It has all of that achievement gap, reading performance, subgroups, very important. B is looking really good to me. What factors, for C, what factors are most important in promoting improvement in the school's overall performance in reading? It's okay, a little vague, don't love it. B is definitely more specific. And D, how many students are in each subgroup and how does that impact the data? Not really focused on achievement here. It's also very vague. I like B the best. And if we go up here and look at this data, we can see that we have all students here and then low SES, all students here and low SES. SES stands for socioeconomic status. And we can see here that the kids who come from low socioeconomic status, or those who come from poverty, are performing at lower levels in terms of passing and making gains. And so we're looking basically at two subgroups, this subgroup and this subgroup. Well, what do we have here? We have an achievement gap. We have an achievement gap in all areas here. So what do we want to do? We want to close the achievement gap. That's why B is the best answer. But notice I didn't have to get lost in this data. I didn't have to look at the data because of the answer choices. And this happens on the exam a lot. You're going to be able to see that. Okay. All right. Let me go to number 5. Okay. It looks like we're still good. Okay. Number 5, looking at the answer choices here. Review materials disseminated by the state regarding the types of questions and tasks tested on the reading assessment. All right, now we want to be in the data mindset, but typically answer choices that talk about specific assessments, like kind of gearing kids towards test prep, are bad answer choices, typically. So I'm not going to choose A here. B, identify high quality teacher resources aimed at improving reading instruction that are available in the school or district. Okay, I like high quality teacher resources and the availability. It's okay. I'm going to keep it. I'm not in love with it. Let's take a look at C, meet with a small group of teachers about approaches they currently use to increase reading achievement. Okay, another vague answer choice. It sounds good, but it's a little vague, right? And this is where you've got to pay attention. This is where people tend to say, hey, it kind of looks like this could be the answer, and it's not. D, analyze test data to identify specific reading skills to improve subgroups of students. Again, we have that very specific test data analysis. D is the correct answer here. Let's read the question just so we know what's going on. Now let's look at the question stem. The principal can most effectively begin the planning process by taking which of the following actions first. This is another way to identify correct answer choices. Most effectively and the word begin. Well, what do we do when we begin? We analyze the data first. We don't meet with small groups of teachers yet. We're not ready for that. We need to look at the data first. We need to educate ourselves in what's going on. We're not identifying high quality resources yet because we haven't looked at the data. We're not reviewing materials yet because we haven't looked at the data. D is the right answer every time because we have to make sure we're analyzing the data. Okay, just checking my screen again. Sorry. All right, number 6, again, long scenario. Let's go in here. At the faculty meeting, show the teachers the data and take a vote determining if the program should be implemented school-wide. No. We don't take votes at faculty meetings to determine if a program should be implemented. It sounds good because it sounds democratic, but what this does is just chaos ensues. Everybody's got an opinion. You could have 80 teachers in the room. There are no groups of representatives of people kind of representing each faculty or each department. This is not the most effective way to implement a school-wide program. A is out 100%. Now, if it said something like analyze the data and form a committee with different representatives from each department and the custodial staff and the students and the community, that would be a good answer. But this take a vote during a faculty meeting, no, not effective. B, call teachers in to evaluate the data and ask that each teacher applies the new approach in his or her classroom. Okay, I like this one, to evaluate the data, but then we jump right to ask each teacher to apply the new approach in the classroom. It's okay. I don't love it because it's like we look at the data and then I just make a decision without really considering the data. So I'm going to keep it, but I don't love it. C, provide opportunities for teachers who are having success with the program to share their experiences. Remember, shared experience is a good word on this exam, with teachers during teacher-led professional development. This is all about that building capacity. So this looks like a good word. This looks like a good answer choice. It's got all the good words in it. I'm going to choose it. Now you might say, well, B says evaluate the data. I can see where you would say that, but because of the ending piece here, it's not as good as C. And this is where you got to think critically about this. And we're going to read the question stem will help us get us there too. But let me just go to D. Require teacher leaders to train teachers who want to implement the new program in their classrooms. Well, the word require is usually a bad word on this exam. And we're only training those who want to implement the new approach. Well, if you've been a school leader for any period of time, there aren't going to be a lot of teachers who want to implement a new approach. And why is that? Because they're given new approaches like every 5 minutes to implement in their classroom, and it's annoying. And so they are a little bit leery of any new ideas coming down from the district office. And so D is probably not your right answer for most effective. But B is providing opportunities for teachers to share, hey, this worked for me. And this is very powerful. I've used this a lot as a school leader, having teachers help me with teacher-led professional development. All right. Let's take a look at the question. A principal of a high school has elicited the participation of a few teachers in a new action research approach on their weekly PLCs. So far, the new approach has yielded positive results. So we already know it's yielded positive results for the teachers and students. So you could analyze more data, but we already know it's got positive results. What would be the most effective step in moving forward to gain buy-in? This is where the question stem will help you. Like, let's say you were between B and C. Well, buy-in, when you have other teachers talking about it, you're more likely to get buy-in there. All right. So that's why C is the correct answer. Check in again. Sorry. All right. 7. Let's take a look at the answer choices here. Again, this is all instructional leadership. All right. A, encourage faculty to use PLCs to align curriculum. I love the word alignment on this exam, to the state assessments, and again, that's really good, and provide ample time in their planning schedules to design common assessments and discuss student data. I mean, can it get any better than that? It's got all the good words in it. I'm circling it, but let's discredit B, C, and D. Devise a plan with the department to use PLCs to plan together, construct common assessments, and engage in test prep strategies. That's where a good answer choice goes bad. Test prep strategies, even though they're super important and you should be putting them in your school, they're not the correct answer on this exam, because we want to, the position of district and school state leaders is that if you just teach to the standards, everything will be fine. We know that's not true. They need test prep if they're going to, all we do is test them constantly. So they're going to need test prep strategies. I digress. I'm not going to get on my soapbox about it, but we know that that's not true. B is out because of the test prep strategies. C, choose curriculum aligned to the standard. Okay, I have alignment here. And mandate that all the staff members use it. Mandate's a bad word on this exam. We're not mandating, we're encouraging, we're empowering, we're motivating. Mandating is bad, even though mandates are a big part of our job. D, have the state send representatives to the school to discuss the importance of standards and state-aligned assessments. No, we're not eliciting outside help. We handle it in the school. And, the state probably isn't going to send any representatives. And I can tell you, teachers do not want state representatives in their classroom because they're not educators. So we don't really take a lot what they have to say very seriously. Anywho, 7, how can an educational leader ensure the faculty has ample opportunity to be successful in having students achieve on state assessments? Now, again, you might be inclined to go to this test prep, but A's got all the good stuff. We got PLCs, aligning curriculum, using common assessments, and discussing data. That is the best way. All right, let's take a look at 8. One more time. Let me just check. Okay, we're good. Still sharing. Again, we got a big narrative at the top. I don't want to get all turned around in there. Let's have a look at A. Provide differentiated instruction that builds on students' unique strengths and experiences. I love it. Differentiated instruction, students' unique strengths and experiences. It's got all that good instructional leadership stuff. B, incorporate project-based learning activities into the curriculum. Okay, you might say, well, B is good too. It is good, but it ain't great because A is best here so far. Project-based learning is very powerful, but it's kind of a blanketed approach here. What we want to be is differentiated. Not all kids work well with project-based learning. Some kids like to do individual work. Some kids like to have auditory learning, things like that. So I would not do B, but I'll keep it just in case. C, develop individualized performance criteria to drive instruction and assessment for each student. Okay, you might say, well, this says individualized. Here's where this is tricky. Performance criteria. Individualized performance criteria means that each student has to meet a different standard. The criteria is a standard. We want individualized instruction. We want individualized activities, but performance criteria, everybody's got to take the same state assessment at the end of the year. So we don't want to individualize that because then the kid gets hit with a state test and they've been used to their own criteria. So C is out because of that. So be on the lookout for that. And D, create and implement standards aligned create and implement standards-aligned independent study programs. Well, we have this word standards-aligned, but independent study programs, not every kid works well with independent study programs. Some do, some don't. A still looks like the best answer choice here. Let's have a look at the question. After a needs assessment, all right, so we've already looked at the data. The leadership team has decided to focus on subgroups within the school, especially ELLs and kids from low SES. The needs assessment data show these students tend to perform at substantially lower levels than their peers. So we have that achievement gap. The leadership team can best support teachers who serve these students by providing teachers with professional development aimed at. Well, we need professional development aimed at differentiated instruction that builds on students' unique strengths. Remember what I said in the specs. Having ELLs and students from low SES is not a deficit. It's an opportunity because they have unique strengths. So where can we maximize those strengths and use them towards differentiated instruction to close that achievement gap and opportunity gap? And that's why A is the correct answer. And, oh, do I have 2 8s on here? Okay, this should be number 9. Sorry, guys. It's number 9 in your thing. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the answer choices. Follow the guidelines of the district to ensure fidelity. Like the word fidelity. That's pretty good. Help teachers when they need it, but otherwise be there for support. Not loving it. C, guide teachers on identifying goals and objectives, developing common assessments, monitoring progress, and using the data to drive instructional goals. I mean, it's got all the good words. D, requiring teachers to establish norms. Okay, I like establishing norm, identify goals regarding student achievement, plan effective lessons, and work collaboratively. D is pretty good, but this requiring here is what makes a good answer choice a bad answer choice. I'm crossing all of these out. Going with C, let's just have a look at the question here. The assistant principal of TYR school will be assisting teachers during their PLCs to focus on higher order thinking skills. What would be the most effective approach? And here, obviously, what we just said is the most effective approach. This is how PLC should be run, identifying goals and objectives, developing common assessments, all of that. All right, and let's have a look at number 10. And we have answer choices: student learning, student mastery, student engagement, student attitudes. Can't do much here. Let's look at this part. Still working backwards. According to what the assistant principal sees in the classroom, she can effectively measure. All right, I'm looking for what am I looking for here in the kids? What's going on? What can I measure? All right, and we can go right here. We have a KWL activity on a piece of informational text. We have a cooperative learning activity, and we have a think, pair, share. Well, KWL is a graphic organizer. What do you know? What do you want to know? What did you learn? So that's a lot of interaction among students and between students and the teacher. Cooperative learning, obviously, kids are getting into groups in the form of literacy circles. Really good. And think, pair, share is when we think aloud or we think for a minute, pair up, and then share aloud. So we have a lot of engagement here. These do not measure student learning. We haven't looked at any data yet on student learning. If I looked at test scores, I could figure out student learning. So student learning is not happening here. Again, student mastery also, I would need data to look at that. This is all observational data. I don't have any scores yet. So B is out. C, student engagement. Absolutely, student engagement. These are all engagement activities. And D, student attitudes. You could say, well, I could figure out if they're in a good mood or a bad mood, but really you would have to do a survey to figure out student attitudes. How did you feel about this activity? You'd have to poll them at the end. So D is out, making C the correct answer there. All right. So let me stop sharing here. Let me go to here. All right. So send to stream. I'm not in love with this Vimeo software. Sorry for all the little glitches about that. So how do you guys feel about those multiple choice questions? You can see that when you work backwards, things get a lot easier. When you start reading from the top and you work all the way down, things can get a little bit chaotic and you start to overanalyze and think about things. So anyways, yes, the answer to number 3 is B. I don't know, did I say that it wasn't B? Yes, horizontal alignment. The answer to number 3 was B. Yeah, so working backwards really helps a lot. And it looks so easy. And you're like, well, is the test this easy? It kind of is. If you can identify those keywords in the answer choices, it's pretty easy. Okay. All right. So now what I want to do is just talk a little bit about the writing portion. Now, if you're taking the 5-4-1-2, don't leave yet. Because if you can analyze the writing portion, it will help you with the multiple choice because it helps you to understand that critical thinking piece. So don't hang up yet. Stay on here with me. Again, I have comprehensive writing instruction, multiple choice instruction with the book. Please, when you use this study guide, don't just go to the practice tests and just do practice tests over and over again. Read the information in the book. It's really good. And it's got good leadership information. It'll help you be good leaders. Now, someone's just asking me, are the questions in order based on categories? Well, it's funny you should ask that. Let me go ahead and share my screen one more time because let me just walk you through the study guide really quickly, give you an opportunity to see. If you look at, let me just make sure I'm sharing here. Okay, I am. Sorry. If you look at my study guide at the end of each section, so remember I talked about the specs, strategic leadership, instructional leadership, climate and cultural leadership, and it's the same for the 5412. I have these test questions that are just for, like these are at the end of instructional leadership. These are just for instructional leadership. But let me go back up here. In the practice test, the big practice test at the end, let me go one more here. Sorry. These questions in the answer explanations, I tell you which content category they're from. See how these are all from content category 1, and look at the answer explanations are like their own. They're so in depth. Content category 1. Let's see, we're still going. And here comes content category 2. And then these are all from content category 5. So in my study guide, let me go back, stop sharing. Oh, sorry. Stop sharing. In the study guide, they're all categorized. So I make sure that you know exactly where they come from because that's part of the power for knowing what you're doing. So absolutely, they are categorized. And they're categorized in my online course. Now, real quick, before I go over the writing, I just want to show you guys a couple of resources you can use from my website. So let's go. Oh, I forgot. Let me tell you. I'm doing an audio course for this particular exam. I'm working on it. It's almost done. It's in edits right now. So those of you who are auditory learners, I'm going to be working on these audio courses. The first one I'm doing is for the SLLA because I was preparing for this webinar. So I just recorded the audio course. It's probably about 2 to 3 hours, but it's broken up into 20 to 25 minute sections because many people like to listen. A lot of people tell me they vacuum and they ride in their car and they walk on their treadmill and they listen to my YouTube videos. So I thought I would do some audio courses. So at the end of this webinar, you're going to get an email from me and I will I'll send you a link to this right here that will show you a place to sign up to get notified when my audio course is available. Now, if you're watching this in the future, it may already be available, but right now on April 29th, it is not available yet, but you can get on the mailing list. And as soon as it's ready, I'll hit you up and you can take a look at that. But if you are interested in SLLA and 5412, I have an online course that is extremely comprehensive. Even if you're taking the 5412, remember it's the same test. And so this will help you out with that. If you need more support, there are hours of video here. It's much different than just the YouTube channel. It's got way more information and it comes with the study guide. Now, if you're good and you're like, well, I just need a study guide, well, then you can just buy the 5412 right here or the SLLA 6990. Now, I will tell you the SLLA 6990 has that writing. And if you're taking the 5412, it kind of helps to look over the writing. Even though you don't have to do it, it's still more content. It's still more information. It's still a way to sharpen those skills. But if you don't want to focus on it because you don't have to, you can do that. And of course, you can get it on Amazon here. And you can see we have a lot of 5-star reviews for our SLLA book. This has helped lots of people pass this exam. All right. So that's really, really important. And now I'm going to go over to the writing. Hang on. I don't want to make you dizzy. I apologize. I'm scrolling. I should have had this already picked up, but let me go here. Okay. So the writing is going to look a little something like this. Let me close this out. So you're basically going to have a big old narrative here. You're going to have a piece of data here and probably something else. There are a lot and they get to be very intimidating. But here's where I want you to start. Just like before, I want you to start backwards. Start at the task first, okay? Because that's where you're going to be able to understand what's going on. Oh my God. Sorry about that, guys. You're going to be able to understand what's going on here and what you need to do. So start with the task before you get all into this. This is too much. I want to have my mindset. What am I supposed to do here? Okay. And I have lots of writing prompts in my book and in my online course for you to practice with. But let's take a look at this writing prompt here. So we have our task using the information in the documents provided. Identify 3 actions the school leader should include in a plan to help Ms. Slocum improve her professional practice. Okay, right here it says identify 3 actions. All right. So we're going to have 3 paragraphs. You're going to keep it so organized, and each paragraph is going to be its own thing. You're not going to intermingle. You're going to keep it succinct. You're going to keep it organized, and each paragraph is going to be each thing. Okay. So that's rule number 1. So if you're mapping out your response, you're going to have 1, 2, 3. All right. And then it says for each identified action, explain how the action will help improve Ms. Slocum's professional practice. Well, that's easy. You just include that in the paragraphs. Just do a quick sentence that says, I'm going to show you how to do it, but basically that says, because it will help her, blah, blah, blah. You just have to make sure you include that. We're going to be specific about the 3 things we're going to use. And then we're going to say why we're using it and why it will help her. And it's just going to beef up the paragraphs a little bit. All right. Now I need to go because I have it written out, but it's not. Let me stop share real quick. Go ahead and talk amongst yourselves while I look at this. Yes, I can explain the SLLA 6990 course just a minute. Let me go through the writing really quickly. But I had a table here to show you, and I want to make sure. There it is. Okay. There it is. All right. So what I want to do here is I'm moving my screens around really quickly. Talk amongst yourselves. All right. People are asking questions. With your online course, I have some audio, but do not have audio for constructed response. I will have audio for constructed response in the audio course, but there's video for the constructed response for the 6990 in the online course. It's a video. So if you're having trouble accessing that and you purchase the course, let me know. But I'm going to do another audio course that includes that. And if you've already purchased the online course, I'll probably send you guys a discount code because then you can get it at a reduced price. All right. Yes, you do get scrap paper. You do get scrap paper to map it out. Now, here's how I would map this out. So let's go to screen share really quickly. First, let's have a look at what is going on in the task, okay? So we need to find 3 actions we're going to take with this teacher, and we're going to say why we're taking them and why it will help her, all right? Let's have a look at this data here. We have this year and last year right here, and then this is a science department. So we have matter and mass, energy and force and motion. So here are the department results. Not bad. In the 80s and 90%, that's a pretty good department results. So the department's doing good. However, her results aren't great compared to the departments. Now, this is pretty good data. I would say she's not doing that bad. I mean, if you look at science results for like statewide and things like that, I mean, Ms. Slocum is not doing so bad. But against her department, she is lower. And so we want to make sure that we're pulling her up. Okay. So we do have a problem here. And then we have this little, and let's see if I can zoom in. There we go. Let's have a look at the performance criteria that we did when we did our walkthrough. So we have that she's using instructional objectives and the lesson plans are completed by following this strict scope. However, there's no evidence of the use of instructional data to plan lessons. So we're missing some data analysis here. We've got direct instruction is supplemented with specific inquiry labs on occasion. Okay, so she's doing inquiry. And then it said, when I asked students about the district instruction lessons, students shared that they listen to the teachers and the teacher provides a review sheet with questions before the test. Not great. Then we have here, Ms. Slocum reviews the class averages for assignments and tests to see if students studied hard. That doesn't make sense. I don't see how you could figure that out. And she feels that these data are best for informing parents of student learning. Well, she needs to be informing herself of student learning. And she uses teacher developed assessments, but when I reviewed them, they're mostly selected response with very few open-ended questions. And so we want students to think critically, so we need more open-ended questions. And then we have she participates in professional growth opportunities when provided by the school. And then we have this one here. At the department meeting reviewing results of the benchmark, the department head provided a school level and teacher level results. A couple of teachers stayed after the meeting to complete an item analysis. This is when you look at your teacher made tests and you determine if the items are good and how many students got it right and how many students got it wrong. So an item analysis is really important when you are looking at your own tests. I mean, I just performed an item analysis on our on working backwards and all that. You should be doing that with your tests in the classroom to make sure students understand them. And then it said, but she didn't participate in that. She kind of did her lesson plans during that time. So that's not a great use of time. All right. So based on this, I went ahead and I'm going to stop sharing here and I'm going to share a different screen really quick. Let me go to entire screen. Let me share this here. Okay. So can you see that? Okay. Based on all of that, I know that there are the three things I want to use for this particular constructed response are I need to train this teacher on data-driven decisions right here because she's not using data to make decisions in the classroom. And so that's going to be paragraph number 1. Paragraph number 2 is she's going to get some training on how to align classroom assessments to the state test, to the standards. Because the more we align our classroom assessments to what the state test looks like, the better the kids are going to do. And then finally, we're going to do a professional development plan because while she is engaging in some professional learning, she's not really getting a whole lot out of it. All right. So now those are my 3 paragraphs. Now inside those paragraphs, I want to make sure I'm hitting those tasks, everything they ask. Remember, they said provide a rationale why you're doing it. And we always want to be specific. So I don't want to just talk about, okay, we're going to train her on data-driven decisions. Well, we're going to train her on how to disaggregate data based on skills so she can identify where specific gaps occur. Then she can use formative assessments to progress monitor along the way and apply it to small and large group instruction to improve student practice and understanding. And that can include scaffolds for those who need support. This type of professional learning will help her become more data-driven and therefore more understanding of where those gaps are and where she needs to funnel her time and scaffolds and things like that. All right. Notice I was specific on what I'm going to do and I say why it's important. So that's about 5-6 sentences there. So paragraph 1 is done. Paragraph 2, we're going to work on aligning classroom assessments to the actual assessment at the end of the year. So we're going to provide her with training on item alignment, and that's going to help her have her test mimic the state test and the standards. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're going to more specifically help her conduct item analysis with the other teachers. So we're going to encourage her next time when that professional development happens and teachers are conducting an item analysis, we want her to do that. All right. We're going to help her develop better assessments and provide her training on that. And we're going to identify specific data needed to make adequate decisions. That should say decisions. Why is this helpful? Well, her assessments in her classroom are lacking. They're all multiple choice with very little open responses. I might even put in here, help her develop better open response questions by working with other teachers who are good at that, who are veterans in that area. And then why is this important? Well, it will help the students achieve on the state test, which will bring her scores up. And the third paragraph, because these 2 things are pretty big things, these are hard to do. I think we should implement a professional development plan that focuses on this. So as the school leader, I'm going to work directly with this teacher, and her professional development plan is going to focus on data-driven decisions because that's really where the big lack is in her approach. We are going to focus on disaggregating data together. I might say we'll have data chats. I have it down here. Schedule data chats and conversations about monitoring student progress. We're going to do that together so I can model that type of practice as the school leader. And then I'm going to check in and see how things are going. All right. So that's how I would approach the constructed response. Now, I could spend 18 hours on the constructed response because there's so much to do there. But notice that I have 3 paragraphs and they're all just get in and say what you're going to say. Don't say, Ms. Slocum is a blah, 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 teacher who is having a hard time. It's not asking for that. It's saying 3 approaches. So paragraph 1 is you just start out by saying, my first approach to helping Mrs. Slocum will be to. Boom. And then the next paragraph, my second approach would be to. My third approach, make it easy on the grader. They're asking you for just 3 approaches. They're not asking for an intro paragraph. They're not asking you for a conclusion paragraph. They're just asking you to answer the question. You only have 75 minutes for 4 of these. That was just 1. So you got to keep it succinct, keep it simple, keep it targeted, and don't worry about intros and conclusions on this. They're not testing you on how good of a writer you are, although it needs to be organized. They're testing you on your leadership skills. And so the key things you want to do is be specific on what you're going to do, provide reasons why, and give examples. That's going to help you pass the writing. All right. All right. So I'm going to take some questions here. Anybody have any questions about what I talked about? People wanted to know about the online course. So let me show you a little bit of the online course. Give me 1 second to just pull it up. The online course is full of information, videos, extra practice. It's super big and it's got a lot of information. So if you're someone who needs some support in this area, it's going to help you. Let me go ahead and share my screen here so you can have a look at what the online course looks like. So this is the online course. Notice on this left-hand menu here, this is everything down here. So the beginning part, you're going to get the study guide. So you can download the study guide here. And then I go through the specs here. These are all the specs, and I have a video talking about that. But then I get into specific strategic leadership. We go through, there's all kinds of different things. There are videos, there are extra practice questions, and we go through all this different content that's on the exam. And then there's a little leadership quiz. And the same thing with instructional leadership. I go through each and everything. So there are videos for every single thing. I've even got some digital flashcards if you're someone who likes digital flashcards. Then we get into ethical leadership, good words, flashcards there, goes through everything there. And then I have constructed response. And this is what someone was talking about, the audio course. Here's the audio course. You can listen to this. Oh, this isn't linked. I need to link that. Maybe that's why you couldn't hear it. I'll go in and fix that. But you could click these and listen to them. But I'm actually going to just do audio courses specifically for this exam. So I'm almost done with those. But the course is pretty big. And again, if you're working on the SL or the Praxis 5412, it's the same test. So you can use this as well. Also, anytime you buy an online course from me, you get the study guide. So don't buy them both. Notice here, you can download the study guide and it just pops up and you get it sent to your desktop and all of that. All right. So that's going to help you there. Now I'm just going to take some more questions. And it looks like you guys are talking together about your experience with the SLLA. That's really good. Let me know if you have any questions. That's going to wrap it up for today. I did go a little over hour 20. That's okay. It's a big test. And I hope you guys enjoyed the session today. I'm going to send you an email at the end that gives you all the information that I talked about today. I'm going to send you the specs. I'm going to send you a chance to sign up for the audio course and all of that. So anything I talked about today is going to be linked up. So don't worry about that. Okay. I'll even send that last slide that I talked about for the writing. All right. And I hope that you guys are all having a wonderful Saturday. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Every time I go into one of these webinars, there's always people there who are happy spending their Saturdays with me. And I really appreciate it. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I will Okay, real quick before I end, somebody's asking, how long do you suggest working before you take it? 3 to 4 weeks. I think 3 to 4 weeks is good. If you're taking the online course, 3 to 4 weeks is good. Because you need time to absorb it. So 3 to 4 weeks, not too long. You don't want to stay too long because then you're delaying the inevitable. You got to get in there and take it. All right. Some of you are taking it next Saturday. Good luck, everybody. Let me know how you're doing. Be on the lookout for that email from me, and I will see you next week. I'm doing Praxis Teaching Reading 5205. And if you have teachers who need that, let them know. And it's going to be just like this. Saturday morning, we're going to go through the test. And I appreciate it. Guys, you've been great.